the aerospace world was rocked to its core. On March 13, 2025, President Trump announced a staggering 200% tariff on the Boeing company. This move sent immediate shockwaves through the industry, far beyond the factory floors in Everett and Renton. The tariff targets the very heart of America's largest manufacturing exporter. It is a decision laden with profound implications, not just for Boeing, but for its vast network of suppliers, its thousands of employees, and the broader American economy. The sheer scale of the tariff, 200%, is almost unprecedented for such a major domestic corporation, signaling a dramatic escalation in trade protectionism. This decision represents one of the most significant protectionist measures taken by the Trump administration. The news spread like wildfire, leaving analysts and industry insiders scrambling to understand the full scope of its potential impact. For Boeing, a company already navigating a complex global market and intense competition, this tariff presented an existential challenge of a new magnitude, forcing a rapid re-evaluation of its entire operational strategy. The announcement was made with little prior warning, catching many by surprise. President Trump framed the tariff as a necessary measure to safeguard American jobs and ensure national economic security. President Trump's rationale for the 200% tariff on Boeing is deeply rooted in his long-standing America First trade philosophy. He has consistently voiced concerns about trade imbalances and the perceived loss of American manufacturing jobs to overseas competitors. The president argued that the tariff was a crucial step to protect American industries from what he views as unfair global competition and over-reliance on foreign supply chains. He specifically accused Boeing of outsourcing an excessive amount of its production, thereby undermining American jobs and weakening the nation's economic interests. The administration believes that compelling Boeing to increase its domestic production will create thousands of new, well-paying jobs for American workers. This aligns with a broader strategy to reduce dependency on foreign components, particularly from countries perceived as economic rivals. The tariff is presented not merely as a punitive measure, but as a strategic tool to encourage a significant shift in Boeing's manufacturing footprint back to the United States. In a move that caught many observers off guard, Boeing's response to the colossal 200% tariff has been described as surprisingly cooperative. Rather than engaging in a protracted public battle or immediately threatening legal challenges, the aerospace giant appeared to pivot towards a strategy of adaptation. Boeing announced ambitious plans to significantly increase its domestic production capabilities. This includes proposals for the construction of several new state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities across the United States, a move directly addressing the administration's core demand. Furthermore, the company has committed to hiring thousands of additional American workers to staff these new and expanded operations. Analysts suggest that Boeing may be playing a longer game, seeking to navigate the current political landscape by demonstrating good faith. The company's leadership likely weighed the immense costs of the tariff against the investment required for increased domestic production, opting for a path that, whilst expensive, could secure its long-term future in its home market. The details of Boeing's plan are still emerging, but initial reports indicate a multi-billion-pound investment program spread over several years. The imposition of a 200% tariff instantly threw Boeing's complex global supply chain into disarray. The sudden tripling of costs for imported parts presents an enormous logistical and financial challenge. Many components are highly specialized, with few US-based alternatives available. The most immediate consequence for Boeing is a significant increase in manufacturing costs. Even a small cost increase can add millions to the final price of each aircraft. Boeing now faces the difficult choice of absorbing these costs or passing them on to customers. The tariff forces Boeing to re-engineer parts of its supply chain under immense pressure. The announcement of the 200% tariff sent immediate tremors through financial markets, with Boeing's shares experiencing significant volatility. On March 13th, the day of the announcement, the company's stock price took a sharp dive as investors reacted to the news with alarm. The prospect of massively increased costs and disrupted supply chains painted a bleak picture for Boeing's short-term profitability and long-term growth prospects. Investment analysts, caught off guard by the severity of the tariff, rushed to downgrade their ratings on Boeing stock, citing the unprecedented level of uncertainty introduced by the government's action. The ticker symbol BA became a focal point of market anxiety. This initial plunge was followed by a period of intense fluctuation as the market attempted to digest the news and anticipate Boeing's response. Investors were particularly keen to understand how Boeing planned to manage the increased costs. The surprisingly cooperative response from Boeing, when it eventually came, did offer some measure of reassurance to the market, though considerable uncertainty remains. The market is now closely watching for concrete signs of progress on these domestic plans and any indication of a softening stance from the administration. The 200% tariff on Boeing is not just a problem for one company, it promises substantial disruption for the entire aerospace sector, both domestically and internationally. Boeing sits at the apex of a vast pyramid of suppliers, many of which are small and medium-sized enterprises that depend heavily on orders from the aerospace giant. These suppliers, providing everything from tiny fasteners to complex sub-assemblies, now face immense uncertainty. If Boeing is forced to drastically alter its production methods or reduce output due to increased costs, the ripple effect down the supply chain could be devastating, leading to order cancellations, layoffs, and even bankruptcies among these smaller firms. The intricate, decades-old relationships between Boeing and its global network of specialized suppliers cannot be easily or quickly replicated domestically without significant cost and time. This disruption could lead to delays in airplane deliveries, affecting airlines and passengers, and potentially ceding technological advantages to international competitors who are not facing similar domestic pressures. The interconnectedness of the global aerospace industry means that the impact will be felt far beyond American borders. International suppliers who provide critical components to Boeing will see their orders jeopardized. This could lead to retaliatory measures from their own governments, potentially escalating into broader trade disputes that harm multiple industries. The Seattle area aerospace industry, with Boeing as its undeniable anchor tenant, is bracing for a period of significant turbulence following the tariff announcement. For generations, the economic fortunes of Puget Sound have been inextricably linked to Boeing's successes and challenges. The company is not just a major employer in the region, it supports a vast ecosystem of suppliers, engineering firms, and service providers. The news of a 200% tariff has therefore sent a wave of anxiety through communities from Everett to Renton, where thousands of families depend directly or indirectly on Boeing's continued health and stability. Local suppliers, many of whom have tailored their businesses specifically to meet Boeing's exacting standards, are now facing an uncertain future. They are caught between the rock of the tariff and the hard place of Boeing's potential need to rapidly reconfigure its supply chain. If Boeing is forced to drastically cut costs or insource more production to new, yet-to-be-built facilities elsewhere in the U.S., these local Washington state businesses could lose vital contracts. This creates a palpable sense of unease as companies weigh their options and workers worry about job security in a region synonymous with aerospace manufacturing. The potential economic impact extends beyond the factory floor. The imposition of a 200% tariff on Boeing has sparked strong reactions in Washington, D.C. Supporters of Trump's agenda see it as a necessary step to protect American jobs. Critics argue it could harm competitiveness and lead to higher consumer costs. There are concerns it could damage Boeing's global competitiveness and escalate trade tensions. Looking ahead, the long-term effects of the 200% tariff on Boeing and the wider aerospace industry remain shrouded in considerable uncertainty. Expert analysts are divided in their opinions, reflecting the complexity and unprecedented nature of the situation. Some economists predict a difficult path for Boeing, forecasting that the massively increased costs will inevitably lead to higher airplane prices. This could make Boeing less competitive on the global stage, potentially leading to a loss of market share to rivals such as Airbus, which does not face similar domestic tariff burdens on its own integrated supply chain. On the other hand, some analysts see potential long-term benefits, particularly if Boeing successfully executes its plan to significantly expand its domestic manufacturing base. They argue that a stronger, more self-reliant American aerospace manufacturing sector could emerge from this crisis. This school of thought suggests that whilst the initial transition will be costly and disruptive, the end result could be more resilient supply chains, a boost to American employment, and enhanced national security through greater control over critical technologies. Much will depend on how effectively Boeing can implement its ambitious domestic expansion plans. The global political and trade landscape could shift again, adding another layer of unpredictability to Boeing's long-range planning.